Good to see everybody. We'll get started here in just a few. Good to see everybody. Jill Moser, Don Spain, Bootleg, Miss Dog Lover. How you doing, Jill? All right, guys, we're going to dive back into Abby and Libby's case. Try to find out what the hell's going on there in Delphi. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today. I took a clip from the Lifetime documentary Behind the Scenes. I think that was put out by Julie Melvin. Involved Doug Rice, Shakespeare, and a couple of others. Anna Shakespeare. So we're just going to pull up, I think it's like an 8-second clip. Doug Rice talking a little bit about Dave McCain and his vehicle. We're going to tie that into Brad Heath and Betsy Blair and the vehicle that they saw. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll tie it in even further into the strange man near the private drive. Testimony from Teresa Liebert. And it all seems to come back to a blue 90s 4-door sedan. From there, we're going to go into how we can prove Richard Allen is the bridge guy. And we'll finish up with Richard Allen name dropping the McCains during his interview with law enforcement. And then we'll touch on everything in between. Sees through. Ooh, good luck. Well, even though we all know poker isn't about luck, don't we seize through? Jill, kind of pissy right now. What's going on? What is up? Get it off your chest. Don, what are you up to this fine Sunday? Bootleg, blue 90s 4-door sedan. Brad Heath and Betsy Blair reported something similar, but very boxy. But I was looking at some images on Google of a 90s 4-door sedan, and the Hondas are pretty boxy. Badass. Easy Rain Man. How many toothpicks do you see? Yeah, definitely 282. 282. Yeah, definitely. Got to go to Kmart. Yeah, Kmart. So no Intrepid? No. Nope. So I did put together a handful of illustrations to kind of help me explain where I'm coming from. I did an overlay of an actual 90s four-door Civic, and then I overlaid Betsy Blair's infamous boxcar drawing, and I laid it over the top. It's pretty close. Oh, I see. We do everything for them, and when we need them, where are they? Just tell them, I'm going to remember that. That's what I always say. I'm going to remember that. All right. We're at about the 8-minute mark, so we'll get going. Yep, they always do. Aren't we all mama's boys? In the end, one way or the other. Okay, so we're going to start this off. Remember, I grabbed this. This doesn't belong to me. I think it belongs to Julie Melvin, I believe. Um, Hannah Shakespeare. Hannah Shakespeare was in town there in Delphi and was kind of getting together all the people who had pretty much gotten the furthest with the Delphi case, as far as like web sleuths and locals and things like that. So she put together this kind of think tank. She got together everybody that she could, and they just started kind of talking about the case. Well, we all know that Doug Rice is probably the most, if we're going to call any of them an expert, it would be him. He's the one that did the work. He did his best to be non-biased, and he's very intelligent. Like his common sense, he was able to wipe a lot of bullshit off the table. And when it comes to Julie Melvin, that was her specialty. She was into grudges and, I'm going to favor this piece of information because these people don't like me. And if they want to hurt me, well, when I filter the information, I'm going to make sure that it drops heavy on them. So that's what we got from her. From Doug, we got more of a non-bias, somebody who was really gathering information, doing the legwork, basically conducting a full investigation and doing it right. You got to go interview the witnesses. And that's what he did. Well, while he was explaining all this information to this group that Hannah, I believe, put together for her documentary, originally was going to be dropped by Lifetime, later kind of put together and put out on the channel Fig Solves, which we were very grateful for. A lot of new information. I just thought it was great work. But anyway, during this little behind the scenes meeting, Doug mentioned that he spoke with Derek German. And remember, Derek German bumped into Dave McCain, and Dave McCain was walking away from the bridge, basically walking away from the crime scene right at about 3:14. Between 3:14 and 3:30, you have Dave McCain walking away from the crime scene. right? Derek German bumps into him. Hey, have you seen the girls? They have a brief conversation and they part ways. But what we didn't hear during trial, according to Doug Rice, is that Derek German actually bumped into Dave McCain again after that and saw Dave McCain leaving the area close to about 4. And he was able to describe his vehicle. He said he drove a 90s model 4-door sedan. So we're going to listen to that right now. But first, I need to share my screen. Okay, if you guys cannot hear this, please let me know right away.
I got all that. Right. Where is the Dan McCain in all this?
Okay, can you guys hear that? So that sounds like Hannah Shakespeare asking Doug, like, where does McCain fit into all of this?
I got all that. Right. Where is the Dan McCain in all this?
These guys are...
They're all over the place.
Look, even Dan McCain. Wait. Here. Right here, where it starts and goes over. Okay.
Like, they have no clue that Doug Rice is the absolute expert in that room, and they cannot stop talking over him.
Okay. This is Dave McCain, number 1, not Dan McCain. I thought of...
See, he's talking to idiots like me. Like, for the longest time, I didn't know. We're looking at Dave, we're looking at Dan. Like, who the hell is it?
It was Dan. Derek, I showed Derek a picture of Dan
I know
McCain.
you told me and said it was Dave.
But let me finish. So when I showed Derek
Let me
that
finish.
picture, he goes, that's not what I saw. I said, that wasn't Dan McCain? No. So then I immediately pulled up a picture of Dave McCain. I sent that to him. He goes, yeah, that looks like who I saw.
Okay, so Doug Rice is explaining to Hannah Shakespeare his conversation with Derek German. So he sat down with Derek German. They had a long conversation about what happened out there, and he's kind of explaining that conversation to the group.
I can't guarantee it, but yes, that looks like who I saw. So then he goes, after I spoke with him, he shortly came back, got in an older 4-door sedan and drove away. He was parked right by there.
Okay, so Derek said he was parked right next to me. It was an older model 4-door sedan.
And I said, so it was a 4-door sedan.
So was he coming this way?
He was coming back, but let me explain.
So he would have gone over the bridge and the girls would have been right there.
No. So, okay. So
Hold
Derek,
on.
I said, what kind of vehicles? I don't remember. So we get online, we do research. He's got a 90s Honda 4-door sedan.
So Doug said during his investigation, he tracked down the model that Dave McCain was driving, and he in fact owned the older model 4-door sedan.
Black. I asked Derek, was
Black.
it a 90s Honda 4-door? He goes, yep, that's about exactly.
And he verified it with Derek, saying, yep, that's it. That's the one. Okay, so then I had to beg the question, what the hell was Brad Heath talking about? Remember, first he was interviewed by Gray Hughes, and he was giving us all this new information about how, no, the vehicle that he saw wasn't parked at the CPS building. It was parked about 200 yards down the road, between the Hoosier Harvest Store location and the CPS building. Almost as if it was trying to avoid that camera. You know, it stopped right there before the bend. Here, let me pull this up so we can kind of get a visual. And I put these together earlier today, so they're a little bit rudimentary. Crude, if you will. But entertain me. Just for the sake of the stream here. Okay, so this is a 91 Civic 4-door faded dark. Faded dark blue. That's the way that Brad Heath explained it. But the model that Doug looked up said that Dave McCain owned a black 90s model four-door sedan. And what I did is I took Betsy Blair's drawing where she was like, no, it kind of looks like this, trying to give him an idea of what she was dealing with. And I laid it over the sedan, and I really didn't have an opinion. I said, hey, it kind of does. It kind of doesn't. And remember, you're not really supposed to remember. Trying to remember a vehicle that you don't know the make and model of, you're trying to explain what it looks like, is probably very similar to trying to remember somebody's face or what they might have been wearing. What's up, Fishy? Goal could have prevented that by just making the trial public. Also, hi, how are you? I mean, I would have liked that. You know, it seems like they're trying to hide something. But I also get it. The bloodlust, right? Welcome in, Chris. Chris from Cali? Don says the problem is Brad Heath said the car he saw was there all day. Yeah, we're going to get into that. No, 8 a.m. to 1:42 is what he testified to. And I went and double checked all this information today. So he said it looked like a car you would take fishing, as I recall. Yeah, we're going to look that up right now. So I want you guys to make up your own mind. I say, hey, it could, it couldn't. I mean, the back is spot on. The back is a perfect match. But she put more of an emphasis right here on the front. She even marked it front of the vehicle. She made it very boxy. But to me, the Civic, if I was to look back, like it's extremely boxy, but I don't know if I would describe it like that. But maybe. But I'm an artist. So. What's up, Eli? Karen Hick. Cindy, what up, what up? Toyota Corolla. Yeah, those are pretty boxy too. Definitely in the back. It's almost a 90-degree angle. Wife Lola blames Snay for world hunger. He had the answers and got himself kicked out before I got to testify in court. Oh, lordy lord. Good to see you, Lilith. And then crashed it. And then accidentally drove him home. He's like, let's make an escape. Rick, he's like, all right, I'll get you out of here. Did a big loop on the freeway and brought him back home. Like, oh, shit. See, they didn't have GPS back then. Okay. Let's see. Before we go to that, try to find my notes. See, Betsy Blair, Dave McCain. What did I do with the other notes? Damn it. Bear with me, guys. Not as organized as I thought I was. All right, I guess we can put this up now. Okay, so Brad Heath testified during the trial that at 8:45 a.m. he was pulling in here to Anderson's. This whole lot right here belongs to Anderson. And apparently he was working on some elevators or something along those lines. Here, let me see what I got down here. So Heath testified that he saw a vehicle at approximately 8:45 a.m. on February 13th while driving to a job near Delphi. The vehicle was parked near the old Child Protective Services building on Country Road 300 North, close to the Monon High Bridge trail. He noted the same vehicle was still there when he returned around 1:43 p.m. while visiting a client at the Anderson property. So one thing we also learned from his interview, Brad Heath, that is, with Gray Hughes, he told him that not only did he see this strange vehicle, but later on, I think a day or two later, he bumped into one of the guys he was working with there at Anderson's, and he said, "Hey, did you hear what happened with the Delphi murder?" He said, "Yeah." He's like, "Man," he's like, I tipped in some information about this weird car." He's like, "Oh, you saw that car too?" He's like, "I tipped in that car." He's like, "You want to hear something strange? After you left at 1:42, that same car that was parked right here, apparently this guy told him was parked up here." And he said he was parked in a way where he could overlook the entire area. And that was never testified to in trial. So the same vehicle that's parked odd, like it was kind of halfway off the street even, stops at the very point as not to be captured on this video. You know, he's like, "I'm smarter than that. I'm going to stop right here." So whoever this person is definitely was, well, I don't say definitely, but I think there's a good chance that could have been working with Richard Allen and quite possibly might belong to Dave McCain. Now, I don't know. I'm just saying the information here says that that could be possible, right? A common sense investigation, if you weren't being influenced by the person you're investigating, would look at that, right? I don't remember there being a search warrant served. I don't remember there being any kind of a comparison to firearms or any of that. DNA being taken by him, his phone. I know that he said he didn't have a phone and they took his SIM card from his camera. But did they take his vehicle? Did they get a search warrant for the vehicle? It was apparently near the crime scene. And he testified that he got there at 2 and left around 3. That's exactly what the killer should be saying. It's like, yeah, I got there at 2 and I left at 3. That is right when the crime was happening, between 2 and 3. So I find it absurd that they didn't look into him further. I don't understand. It's like favoritism or something. And I don't care if he's completely innocent or not. To just take that for granted, like, oh, we know Dan. And you know damn well killers like this hide in plain sight. What happened to the lost tip narrative? Somebody with power and influence had something to do with that. Possibly, right? How else do you explain it? Who's protecting Richard Allen? And the only reason they would protect him is because they're with him. He could lead to them. And towards the end of the live stream, we're going to prove that Richard Allen is the bridge guy. So if this vehicle, this 4-door older model, 90s model 4-door sedan had anything to do with these crimes, they were working with Richard Allen. That's why towards the end, we're going to tie it in by Richard Allen actually name dropping the McCains, talking about working on the 505 trail, the one that goes right down to the bottom underneath the bridge, and tearing down a shack. I kid you not. Right? We get the FBI kicked off the case, just like the Long Island serial killer case. Booted off. And what did we find out later? It was to keep the case from progressing. So what happened? What happened to all the tentacles, to the largest CSAM ring in history, to heads are going to spin? No heads spun, and it was like a more of a dud. You know, people were left feeling like they didn't get the punchline. What's up, Cindy? Clyborg, Lisk, Long Island serial killer. Yeah, so in Delphi, they booted out the FBI. In the Long Island serial killer case, they booted out the FBI. Were they asking the same questions that we are? Like, why wasn't this followed up on? Wasn't even talked about. Okay, so Brad Heath says, well, the car I saw was there, parked strangely. He said, I thought it was odd. Yeah, let's read more on that. Said the vehicle's parked near the old Child Protective Services. He described the vehicle as an older, faded, dark blue four-door sedan that appeared out of place. Heath compared its appearance to a police car from a Tommy Lee Jones movie. So I don't know if that matches up with that. But remember, you're remembering it. But he saw it twice. He's like, damn, that car's still there. That's weird. Probably thought, oh, maybe it's stolen or maybe it's broken down. For whatever reason, it stood out to him. So I don't know if the 91 Civic four-door matches with what he's describing here. But what he is describing is very similar to what Betsy Blair described, this boxy vehicle. Now, if this car's parked at a weird angle and all you really see is the back area of the vehicle, maybe this, I don't know, to me it seems pretty boxy. Definitely not modern, you know, where things are more aerodynamic. So I think they could be talking about the same vehicle. It somewhat matches with Derek, what he told Doug Rice. We have Dave McCain matching the same timeline as Richard Allen. We have Richard Allen name dropping the McCains during his interrogation, stating that he helped tear down a shack that was underneath near the bridge. Not to mention the shack that he tore down, the original property owners were the McCains. So before it changed its name to the Mary Gerard Reserve or whatever they titled it, it was just titled the McCain Farm. There was a home that was down there that was destroyed long ago, and all that stood was a crib-style barn. It was a corn crib. Richard Allen helped the McCains tear that down around 2012. Or excuse me, around 2010. Welcome in, Mary C. Tip was the fact that Richard Allen's tip was marked cleared as too much. I just can't believe it was just an accident. It feels as if somebody was trying to protect Richard Allen. The FBI, it was blamed on the FBI employee, but the FBI said, hey, we did everything that we were supposed to do. So whoever marked cleared on that ain't got nothing to do with us. So you have the person on the trail that has the power and influence in that town to get that done, to protect anybody who was involved, right? And this is all hypothetical. Like, don't go taking this to Tobe. Did you want to hear what I heard today on the Sleuth Intuition Channel? No, this is all hypothetical. They don't care if he does have this kind of power. Nobody's going to turn course now. Nobody's turning this ship around. You know, it's already fallen off the flat edge, the flat earth edge. Yeah, old cop cars were bigger. What I'm thinking of is kind of like Men in Black, something like that. But remember, it's not about what actually was there, Don. It's about what, how was it recalled? How did the mind remember it? But I think listening to Brad Heath and the fact that he saw it twice, I think his description might carry a little bit more weight. But then again, I'm not sure. I don't know about his vision. I don't know the angle. Angles can play some tricks. Lighting. Yeah, I guess it all depends. BN Mama, how's it going? Okay, so we have Brad Heath seeing a vehicle at 8:45 a.m. And Teresa Liebert testified that there was a strange man messing around near the gate to the private drive. She stated the mailboxes, but the mailboxes are next to that same gate. So that same vehicle was seen overlooking the entire park right around 4 p.m., which is when it all was pretty much said and done, right? Muddy and Bloody Guy was fleeing the scene. But right about here, you guys see the red dot at the bottom? That's the gate to the private drive. Her property is somewhere near there. She says her and her husband came home at about 8:30 a.m. So they're pulling into their driveway and they noticed a man out there. So let me see if I have her testimony. I might have it here. Let's see. Teresa Liebert. So Teresa Liebert, a witness, testified to seeing someone who appeared strange near the mailboxes on her neighbor Brad Webert's private drive. However, she could not see the man's face and what he was wearing. When cross-examined by the prosecution, she confirmed that she and her husband were returning home around 8:30 a.m. when they saw this unknown man. A juror inquired if the individual could have been a student since it was a no-school day, but Liebert stated, nope. Nope, this was a creepy dude. So that's what Teresa said. So I find it odd that Brad Heath is reporting this vehicle just kind of parked in a weird way. Do you think it's possible that whoever parked here, hiked the trail, crossed the bridge, went up the private drive, and was messing around over there? Maybe seeing if the gate was unlocked? So the same car that's parked 8:45, 1:42, and then again at 4 p.m. later that day, overlooking the entire park over here, coincides with the 8:30 man, right? So if he's there at 8:30, checking out the private drive, gets spotted over there, like, oh, that shit's locked, or maybe it's not locked, but he's made the determination, he's doing recon, pulls over right here at the head of the trail, like he's doing more recon. So 8:30 he's spooked, 8:45 he's parked right here already. Or he's already parked there and walked the entirety of the trail. You know, maybe he was there since a lot way earlier, lurking. She didn't report any vehicles nearby. Mary, who didn't mark the cleared without knowing that person was truly cleared. Yeah, that's very strange. The whole lost tip and somebody writing cleared on it, it gives the appearance that somebody was protecting Richard Allen. Like, don't worry, I'm going to give you all this money, and even if we get caught, you know me. You know I'm connected. I'll protect you. All right. So Bill from the Delphi Timeline YouTube channel sent me this video that he took. Because we would talk behind the scenes when he was still making his videos and things, and he asked me, "Hey, where should I go?" And this was way before the arrest of Richard Allen, like months. And I said, "Dude, nobody's really ever walked the private drive. It's illegal to do that. It's trespassing." He's like, "All right, I'll walk that private drive." And I said, "Also, Riley Park. There's something about Riley Park, dude. I don't know what it is. I can't get my mind off of Riley Park." I was like, "Check the Deer Creek right there and see if there's ways to hike back from Riley Park towards Delphi and kind of get a good view of that." So he was kind enough to do both of those. But now that we know Riley Park and the private drive are two things that Richard Allen and Abby and Libby had in common. They spent a lot of time at Riley Park. Richard Allen spent a lot of time at Riley Park fishing, and then also hiking the Monon High Bridge Trail, just like Libby and Abby. Right. And the only other thing that hasn't been confirmed that has always bothered me is sensing some kind of relationship, an inappropriate relationship. I can't shake it. I don't know where that is or where it all ties into. It could be part of the unknown. Maybe Richard Allen was grooming one of the girls. But here, we're going to take a look at this video. This is Bill going down the hill, taking a look at the private drive.
End of the bridge. Downhill. Downhill.
So notice how Bill is kind of slipping and sliding the entire way. It would have been a lot more muddier at the time of the crimes when Abby and Libby were forced down and kidnapped down that hill. We know it was Richard Allen. So if anybody else was involved, they're in on it with Richard Allen. Any way you look at this, I don't care if there's some kind of unknown involving friends, neighbors, family. I don't care if it's Odinism. I don't care if it's McCain's or the Kleins. Either way, Richard Allen knows. He has the answers to that question. And why would they be covered in mud if they took off their clothes before they crossed the creek? Because they slid down this hill. I think they all did. I think Abby and Libby fell right here, and I think Richard Allen did. I think they all fell. At least on their legs, right? The side of their leg and on their butt.
And then another down the hill.
Yep. And then you got a whole nother hill you got to make it down.
Under the bridge. So earlier I went up this way, and up that way is somebody's home. So we're not going back that way. We're going to leave this way. And I now have rocks in my shoes.
See, I'm pretty sure Bill's complaining to me right there. Like, now I got rocks in my shoes. Like, I hope you're happy. Yes, Bill. Thank you. So could have Richard Allen been right here? He's just hanging out down here. Before the girls, because apparently that's a pretty good fishing hole right there. You go down and it's not even illegal. If you stay on the easement, you go down the hill, and that's kind of why they blocked it. They didn't want people going back there because legally you could, as long as you stay next to the bridge. The way that they zone that bridge, you're able to go down there and you're able to fish and camp and do all this shit as long as you stay within that easement so many feet near the bridge. So legally you are allowed to go down there. You just can't go wherever you want.
And then another down the hill.
And the girls were just right here. They were just 20 or 50 feet up into the woods. So the reason that Richard Allen covered them in sticks, or him and his co-conspirators, was to block the view from this very area right here. So if you came down here looking for the girls and you just kind of scan the area, they would be camouflaged, not covered or concealed, just simply camouflaged. Remember, Richard Allen was in the military. What do you wear in the military? What do they teach you in the military? Right? Killers, when they fantasize, they incorporate parts of who they are. That's why the FBI is able to profile a lot of these people. And I always bring up the example of the Coeur d'Alene sniper recently, right? He climbed up to the top of this insane tree. First he lit a fire, climbed up this tree, and began killing the first responders. Okay, well, what does that tell you about the assailant? He has an issue with firefighters, and he has tree climbing experience, and he might be a gun enthusiast. Well, when they captured this guy and where they found out who he was, that's exactly what he was. So who killed Libby and Abby? It's definitely somebody who's obsessed with this trail. The whole camouflaging of the body tells me military experience. They're very tactical, the way they were able to violently assault these two girls without any defensive wounds or leaving ligature marks. So this crime is telling us who committed the murders.
Under the bridge.
Okay. I mean, is it possible that Richard Allen's just down here drinking his six-pack right here? Maybe even under the bridge? He sees Abby and Libby coming over from up above. He goes back up the hill, passes them, kind of walking towards the north end to see if anybody's over there. Hey, like, is anybody around? These girls look alone. They don't even know I'm down here. Walks back up to the top, passes them, make sure the coast is clear, and then double backs.
So earlier I went up this way.
Here's the shoe tree. What's up, Scott? Either interrupted, or that's not what they wanted, or they were able to get their sexual gratification without leaving any signs of sexual assault. Maybe the violence itself was what they needed. They didn't need like the RAPE, because that wouldn't have done it anyway. They needed the violence and the gore of it all.
Shoe tree.
That was their sexual pleasure. There's a shoe tree. All right, let's go all the way to where he goes to the end of the end of the private drive where the gate is. He walks right past the gate. We're going to be able to get a good look at it. So Teresa Liebert, who lives somewhere right over here in this area, saw a man right here that she said was strange at 8:30 a.m. At this very moment, there's a car parked that's parked in a weird way that stood out to Brad Heath. He saw that at 8:45, and at 8:30, the strange man is standing right here. Is it possible that the strange man is doing exactly what Bill just did, parking over there, the car that Brad Heath saw at the head of the trail, really, walks the entirety of the trail, crosses the bridge, and does what Bill does here to get a good look at what's going on here? Can we is this a premeditated crime? Can we get under that bridge so that we can kidnap those girls? No, we need another plan. The gate's locked. Or is it possible that the man that's parked in an odd way, according to Brad Heath, at 8:45 was scared off from this location here at 8:30 and just drove and parked where Brad Heath would see him 15 minutes later? But Teresa Lieber didn't report seeing any vehicles here. So it leads me to believe this guy's on foot. Okay. So the way it was explained to me by Bill is that it's not locked. The chain is kind of tied. Try to get a clear view. So he says he can't be sure, but it looked like the gate was just kind of tied, like the chain was tied. So if you're planning to kidnap two girls later in the day, like between 12 and 3, maybe your plan is to go on the private drive, but they have it locked. Right? Why did the chicken cross the road? Why did Richard Allen force the girls across the creek? Maybe this is the reason right here. Maybe it's looking at us right in the face. They weren't anticipating this road being blocked. They just knew that the owner of the property would be gone until 2:15. Okay, let's go back to these photos. Make sure I'm covering all the information before we move on. So, Betsy Blair. Okay, let's look at Dave McCain's testimony. So McCain is 79 years old at the time of the trial. He lives north of Delphi. He said he was on the trails between 2 and 3 p.m. Right? And it says he parked at the Mears lot. So that is perfect for whoever committed this murder. Why would you not search this man's phone? Why would you not serve a search warrant? Why would you not interrogate him? Give him a polygraph test, take his DNA, take his blood. The guy that pulls up into the Mears lot 5 minutes after Abby and Libby do. Right? I don't think this is the best photo. Do I have a different one? Okay, we'll use this one. Okay, so Abby and Libby are dropped off right here at the Mears lot around 2:45. They begin walking towards the trail. By the time they're about halfway here, maybe even almost 3/4 of the way to the bridge, maybe even almost to the bridge, Dan McCain pulls up into the Mears lot and starts walking towards the bridge. Right behind them. Now we all say, well, how come there was no witnesses or nobody saw any Odinist ritual? Well, what if Dan McCain is just simply the lookout? Like, it's not that none of this happened. It's just that he was there to kind of tell him, let's go. All right, coast is clear. Like, don't come out yet. The girl's father's here. Hang tight. Right? Why did the killer spend so much time with the victims? Well, they're just waiting. I mean, who's to say that he didn't have a radio? So potentially the guy who's in a car at 8:45 at the trails all day till at least 1:42 coincides with the strange man near the private drive, and then later at around 4 p.m. is seen parked in this area, overlooking the entire area. So I'm assuming this guy right here is the lookout. Walking up and down the trails from the Mears lot to the bridge, back and forth. Don says Libby was naked. Abby was redressed. Yeah, at one point she was naked from the waist down. So that is the evidence that tells us there was some kind of an interruption. He wanted to do to Abby what he had already done to Libby, was strip her down completely. And for all we know, he could have been stripping down himself. We don't know what he was doing. Maybe they all picked up their clothes and went taking off over the creek, or through the creek, sorry. Kelly, or to film it. Yeah, that's all he had on him was a camera. You can film something and take the SIM card out and put the old one right back in. And then, oh, police got me. Oh, we're going to need your SIM card. Okay, here you go. The one you have might be well on its way to Las Vegas, right? Or something like that. Well, Scott, Richard Allen's bullet was found at the crime scene. And we all watched his interrogations. Like, the dude is guilty. And we're going to prove it at the end of all this. So there's no doubt about it. The bridge guy kidnapped the girls, and Richard Allen is the bridge guy. The question is, who's the guy driving around in the boxy car, in the older model 4-door sedan? Well, it sounds like it's Dave McCain. Hypothetically, right? The person who nobody investigated. They took his camera. That's it. No search warrant, no DNA. None of that. So you ask, what are they hiding on the geofence? It definitely isn't the Subaru crew, because they're happy to talk about that group. If they're hiding anything with the geofencing, it's McCain. It's him possibly crossing this at the time of the crime scene. I don't know. At the time of the crimes, I don't know. Or maybe even over here in this area. Chris, did Alan have Snapchat? No, but he was on some kind of phone. He was on a device. He said he was looking at his stocks, keeping track of his stocks. And when he went home, he was eager to track them there. That's what he did with his spare time. Okay, where are we at here? Lieber testimony, blue car. Okay, I think we're at the part where we're going to go ahead and prove Richard Allen is the bridge guy. We're at the hour mark. Let's welcome in Pitbull. What up? Happy Sunday to you. Kelly O, sorry I didn't welcome you in. Good to see you. Inquisitive, what's going on? Starting from the beginning, don't stop going in on Delphi. Appreciate you immensely. You got it. We're not done yet. Something's not quite right here. It doesn't seem to be consistent. That's the least we can get. Yep, the $1 million question right there. Where's the damn phone? Very convenient. All right, what else did I have on here? Let's see. Okay. Okay, we'll start with Richard Allen's own words. Put this up on the screen. And if you can't hear it, let me know right away.
1:30, 1:45, depending on exactly what time it was that I got there that day. I just remember walking down the trail, and I had told him that the trailhead, I guess is what I'd call it. There was 3 girls walking off the trail, and I just remember it looking like one of them was probably watching, not babysitting, but watching the other 2 because they looked a little younger. And they looked very similar. I don't know if they were sisters or whatever, but the other one didn't necessarily. But I remember seeing them walking off the trailhead. And 1:30, 1:45, depending on exactly what time it was that I got there that day.
What's up, Nana?
I just remember walking down the trail, and I had told him that when I was approaching the trailhead, I guess is what I'd call it, there was 3 girls walking off the trail.
Okay, so he's talking about those 3 girls, right? Technically, it was 4. But when these girls were interviewed, that's what they told them. They said, hey, we ran into the bridge guy as we were leaving. Well, guess what their number 1 suspect is saying? He ran into those same girls. I mean, it's not up for debate anymore. So no matter what, even Betsy Blair said, hey, that's the bridge guy. The guy I saw is the bridge guy. These 3 girls said, yeah, that man that we passed as we were leaving, that's the bridge guy. He's the guy in Libby's video. Let's see. Brianne Wilbur testimony. Okay, so Brianne Wilbur on October 23rd, on day 5 of the trial. Okay, Wilbur was a Delphi high school student in 2017 and a friend of Libby's sister, Kelsey German. She was on the Monon High Bridge Trail on February 13th around midday. Wilbur testified that she saw a man on the trail who creeped her out due to his purposeful walk in heavy clothing, which seemed out of place for a warm 43-degree weather. She described him as wearing multiple layers, including dark clothing and possibly a hat. She was with her friends on the trail and took a Snapchat photo of the Monon High Bridge at 12:25 p.m., which she posted. Libby messaged her shortly after to ask if she was still on the trail, indicating Libby and Abby were headed there. Right? So the killer is most likely stalking them through Snapchat. So through this very communication, the killer could know, hey, Abby and Libby are on their way. They may have blocked us, but I can still see them. Like, they don't know how many alt accounts we have, right? There could be alt accounts that we don't even know about, that never even touched Kagan Klein's devices, just a complete fresh burner phone, specifically for targeting, this mission is what it appears to be. A pre-planned murder mission for whatever reason, highly motivated. We know the McCains they got money. They have money coming into their foundations like crazy. That's motive. Wilbur identified the man she saw as matching the bridge guy depicted in the video from Libby's phone, which showed a man in a blue jacket and hat saying, "Guys, down the hill." The defense challenged the timing of her Snapchat post, 12:25 p.m., and her recollection of the man's appearance, noting discrepancies in her description compared to Richard Allen's physical characteristics. Allen was 5'5" and in his mid-40s, while some descriptions suggested a younger or taller man. They questioned whether her memory was influenced by seeing the widely circulated bridge guy image released by police. Wilbur's testimony placed a suspicious man on the trail close to the time the girls arrived, 1:35, 2 p.m. All right, let's go to Rayleigh. Rayleigh Voorhees. So she testified on October 24th through the 30th. Voorhees was another teenage girl on the Monon High Bridge Trail on February 13th, 2017, part of a group of young people in the area that day. Voorhees testified that she saw a man she later identified as the bridge guy on the trail. She noted he was overdressed for the weather, wearing dark clothes, possibly a jacket and a hat, with his hands in his pockets. She described his demeanor as suspicious, stating he seemed out of place and avoided eye contact. Her sighting occurred in the early afternoon, aligning with the time frame when Libby and Abby were on the trail between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. Like Wilbur, she confirmed the man matched the bridge guy image from Libby's video, particularly the clothing and general build. The defense pressed Voorhees on inconsistencies in her description, such as the man's height, age, or specific clothing details, which varied slightly from other witnesses in Allen's appearance. Allen's shorter stature and baldness under a possible hat, they suggested her identification might be influenced by publicized bridge guy images. Okay, what about Betsy Blair? She testified day 4. She was on the trail around 1:30 p.m. on February 13th and provided one of the earliest eyewitness accounts of a man near the bridge. Blair testified that she saw a man on a platform about 50 feet away near the start of the Monon High Bridge. She described him as looking like he was waiting for someone with brown, poofy hair. Right, that could be Richard Allen's skull cap, the brown, poofy hair. Later acknowledged it could have been a hat. So she acknowledged, yeah, it could have been a hat. And wearing a jacket. She identified this man as matching the bridge guy from Libby's video, particularly noting the blue jacket and general build. Her sighting was estimated to be around 1:30 p.m., shortly before Libby and Abby were captured on video crossing the bridge. So she stated that it was a 1965 Ford Comet-like vehicle, according to the defense. Which she said was inaccurate, right? So this is how we know 100% Richard Allen is the bridge guy. He said it to Dan Doolin, so he can't take it back, because then he'd be changing his story, which he technically did anyway, but he tried to minimize that, saying, oh, no, it was a misunderstanding. And remember, he wasn't the one that said the CPS building or the old Farm Bureau building. He said, oh, I parked just on the other side of the freeway near a small building. So it was Dan Doolin. He said, oh, okay, the old Farm Bureau building, because that's how he remembered it. But Richard Allen actually stated, that's where I parked, at the CPS building. Question is, who wrote cleared on it? All right, we're going to finish with this. This is Richard Allen name dropping the McCains.
It said no parking, so we didn't park there for a period of time, but.
Did you ever park there before when you went?
Yeah.
A lot of times you did? Okay.
I mean, we used to when it wasn't marked. We did a cleanup down there one time I brought a bunch of Walmart people, kind of a community engagement thing. We did a cleanup down there. It's the year that they tore down. We tore down that, if you go down, not the High Bridge way, but that one where I sit on the bench.
Yeah.
That I was telling you about. If you go down the hill, there used to be a little shed, a little shack down there.
A shack.
Before that.
There used to be a little shack down there, and I helped the McCains tear it down. The shack. I wonder what they talked about when they were tearing down the shack. I wonder if he talked about anything weird that might have happened in that shed or that shack. So they kind of give us a pinpoint area of where this corn crib was. You got the bridge, you got the Mary Gerard 505 trail going down, and he's talking about tearing down the old McCain corn crib. right? How do I know it's the McCain corn crib? Because I have the documentation. It's right here. Right? Historical name. Present name, Mary Gerard. Historic name, McCain Farm. One corn crib was included as a historical building. Well, guess what? Richard Allen helped the McCains tear it down. Doug Carter's shack, right? Some dark secrets Doug probably knows. He can't talk about them. At one point, maybe he thought he could. But right here at about 2010, 11-ish area, between 2010 and 2012, Richard Allen assists the McCains in tearing down the shack that at one point stood right next to the Monon High Bridge. This is what it actually used to look like. This is a screenshot from an old music video taken in 2011. But that's what it used to look like around circa 2011. So down the hill is the shack. Who knows what went on down here? But I guarantee, well, I won't guarantee, but I think there's a good chance that if anything horrible happened in here, I think it's possible that Richard Allen and the McCains talked about it.
And we were there that day that we tore that down.
Okay.
It said no parking, so we didn't park there for a period of time, but.
Did you ever park there before when you went?
Yeah.
A lot of times you did? Okay.
I mean, we used to when it wasn't marked. Mm-hmm. We did a cleanup down there one time I brought a bunch of Walmart people, kind of a community engagement thing. We did a cleanup down there. It's the year that they tore down. We tore down that, if you go down, not the High Bridge way, but that one where I sit on the bench.
That one where I sit on the bench. Like the way he talks is just really strange. Like they can see into his mind, you know. Oh, you know the one where I sit on the bench? Oh, you're not seeing what I'm seeing in my brain. But this is what he's describing, just so everybody's not confused. Right? So you're going this way towards the Monon High Bridge. But if you don't, and you take a right, and you go left down the 505 trail, is what he's talking about. So the bench that he's referring to is up here near the mirrors in the Mary Gerard sign that's right there. And it says, hey, you can go this way to the Monon High Bridge, or you can go down here to the preserve. Well, he's saying that when he was working with the McCains, he went down the 505 and tore down this corn crib. But he called it a shack.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. If you go down the hill, there used to be a little shed, a little shack down there, and they tore that, and we were there that day that we tore that down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Let's see. I think I got one more interview with him. That's where he drops, I think, the name.
there's trails before then. Was there a time that you had been on trails before that?
We had walked, after we moved to Delphi, I mean, we started experimenting. I mean, there were trails that we didn't know were there, but, you know, you'd hear about one and you'd go, and I'm sure by that point, well, obviously I know by that point I knew about them because that's how I don't know how I got associated with the Dan something or other that runs the area.
So he doesn't say Dave or Dan. He's like, he's waiting for them to fill in the gaps. Almost like he's name dropping. Like, why are you guys fucking with me? Don't you know I'm with the McCains?
It was Dan. run like the Erie Canal thing.
He wants them to
And
say it.
McCain,
yeah, okay.
I don't remember how I became acquainted with him, but I asked him, because at Walmart, you know, as a leader, they always want you to be involved in the community. And I mean, it's a good thing,
Sure.
but you can also give money to, like, so because we brought so many people out for that event for a day, we had so many hours, and we were able to donate money because of that from Walmart to the Erie Canal Foundation or whatever. So we worked, I guess the question is, yeah, I was on the trails before that day. And we also worked out at the Carrollton Bridge that day. There's a tow path or something. We cleaned up some stuff along there too.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's live stream. Delphi Dark Secrets. What really happened on the trail? What's going on with the blue 90s model 4-door sedan? What's going on with the strange man near the private drive exit early in the morning? I mean, how do we explain all this? Richard Allen's silence. We know he's the bridge guy, but who helped him? It looks like this could have been pre-planned. I mean, think about how much they've benefited since this took place. We have the total destruction of Ron Logan. So I'm curious to see what happens with the acquisition of that property. He's out of the picture. They almost locked him up for the crime. Still don't know if he had any involvement, right? Money talks. Richard Allen could not mention the McCains without mentioning money in the same sentence. You know, we were able to do this almost like he wanted to admit or threaten to confess some kind of a scheme. You know, like, oh, you're the manager at Walmart and you guys are doing this, A, B, and C. Well, why don't you do A, B, and C over here, you know, with my Historic Trails Foundation, funnel in all that money from Walmart, you know, we'll market civic duties, and then we'll go ahead and scrape, you know, 15, 20K off the top, and I'll give you like $5,000. Just do it over here with me and we'll scrape everything off the top. So if they know each other's crooked, right? You're crooked. I know for a fact we already ran a scam. You're crooked. You told me these horrible stories about what may have happened in the shack when you were younger. You're obviously, you know, you might be a psychopath. You're offering me all this money to help you kill these young girls. You know, why else would Richard Allen not at this point, at least after his appeal falls through, provide all the details that are needed? I mean, the only answer could be he's afraid of reprise. What's up, Brandon? All right, guys, 5-minute warning. If you have anything to add to what we talked about today, do it now. If you're part of the replay crew, you know exactly what to do. Drop a comment. We'll get back to you. Let me know what you think. And if you can't hit the Cash App button, please, guys, hit the like button. Even consider sharing the video on your social media. Thank you, Badass. Good to see you. Thank you, Don Spain. We don't want no scrubs. Don't be a scrub. Hit the like button. Mark, always good to see you, my friend. Gail, welcome in. Send me your email and I will send you a video. All right, Gail, sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Send away, send away. If it's a video about Dan McCain talking about putting dead animals on display, I have it. And we talked about it already before. But if not, don't mind me and go ahead and send the email. Make sure you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. And if you need me, shoot me an email. Go Don't be shy. So Abby and Libby have been gone for a long time. And really, they kind of represent everybody's children. Anybody could have been Abby and Libby that day. Anybody's kids. And we still don't know why. Why? Well, we know exactly why Sleuth, blah, blah, blah. No, we don't. You know, everybody knows what the hell's going on. I'm here to admit to you, I have no clue. And I've been looking at this case for a long time. I know that certain things should have been done that weren't done. The crime scene's definitely pre-planned. It also appears that somebody was helping Richard Allen hide from the arms of justice. Somebody marked clear, swept it away. Remember Robert Ives? Oh, I thought this was going to be solved in the first 3 or 4 days. Well, that was probably before somebody wrote cleared on Richard Allen, or just before somebody wrote cleared on Richard Allen's lost tip. Remember? He got out of there. He didn't even make it. Robert Ives didn't make it through the entirety of 2017. In October, he announced that he was out of there. I don't want anything to do with any of this that I see going on here. What did he know that we don't? Maybe one day we'll find out, guys. Either way, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.